What's up everyone, it's 2021 and MineZ has received quite an update with version 3.0.7.14. This update revamps military looting, adds new locations, introduces new mechanics, fixes multiple bugs, and reworks 2 legendary weapons. It's Seal Clubber, and I hope everyone is doing well in this new year. Let's get started. First, Winter Wonderland 2020 has ended. The age of the traveling snowman, the Santa World event, the Santa's workshop, and the Waddle's questline are now over. All Christmas rebuilds have been reverted back, and the value of any Christmas items has now jumped significantly. With Christmas ending, many people might be discouraged, as the Christmas towns were great for gearing up. The MineZ team realized this and has introduced changes to military looting, which was tested on PTR by many players. There's a ton of changes, which on the whole makes gearing up much easier. I won't go through every single change, but here are the major ones you need. Military rare chests can now spawn iron armor, and also has a higher chance than before to spawn pristine chain. Military epics had iron armor spawn rates increased even more from before. They are now the same percentage as pre-Origins iron armor spawns. Meanwhile, Mil Mythics had their iron spawn rate decrease a little bit, but they are still very good for iron armor. They can also spawn pristine chain and smite 2 swords now, but these chances remain pretty low, so most of the time you will be getting good equipment from Mil Mythics. Agni epic chests no longer spawn iron helmets or boots. The chances of these 2 items have been moved to projectile protection iron boots and helmets, which should be much easier to find. Agni epics also spawn smite 3s, which normal epics do not have. Their overall iron spawn rate in Agni chests has also been increased. Dungeon tier 2 chests now spawn pristine chain instead of just spawning chain armor. This makes dungeons like Maze of the Tenth or Flooded Tunnels much better loot-wise. Dungeon tier 3s now spawn iron. This affects dungeons such as Body Offload, Sunken Mire, and Krubera Vault. A ton of locations gained or lost chests as a result of these changes. I won't go over every single one, but here are the notable ones. Agni Ignis's chests no longer have a cap of 1 item, and can now spawn 2 in each chest. The drop rates in Agni's potion chests have also been increased. Yes, there are potion chests in Agni. They are very well hidden, good luck finding them. The floating islands gained more Mil Mythics and Mil Epics. Helltree received 7 more Mil Mythics, a massive buff. Meteor Crater's 1 chest is now a mythic. Outpost Adara had its item limit in the chests increased. Meanwhile, Anvalia Mines, the dungeon, received 2 more tier 2 dungeon loot chests. Before this update, many locations that required a button to get into were difficult to balance, and so a new chest is added with this update, Room High chests. These chests are special button room chests and only appear in button rooms. Most, if not all of the button room chests are now room highs. They include items such as iron armor, grenades, and baked potatoes. These loot changes should make gearing up much easier and means that players won't have to go into the best locations to gear up. In my opinion, these changes are great. The jungle has always been a place where people didn't go because of its remoteness and the lack of anything there. Now there's an extra reason to visit. A new town, Treetops Shelter, has been added to the jungle. This joins Kari as the other jungle town. Treetops Shelter lies to the west of Agni and has a variety of food and civ chests. I don't see much reason to visit Kari anymore, unless you need potions. Treetops Shelter was built by Ender and reminds me of a certain Star Wars village. This town is great for food and for basic restocking to brave the trip into Agni Ignis. There's no crafting table here, however. Come visit this place and check it out. The northern location of Crymore Pond with the head of High Life TTU has been rebuilt, though this is more of a touching up. High Life's head is now much larger, and you can walk inside it much deeper, where the sign remains. There were also 2 chests added here. There was a crafting table added to the Agni Jungle Stairs at 3200, -3500. This might be a good place to stop for those who are coming from Treetops Shelter. The crafting table is located at the top of the ruins. There were small changes added to carrots and apples. Carrots finally restore 1 thirst. Since this would have made carrots better than apples, apples now restore 2 thirst instead of 1. So there is a small trade-off in choosing which one you want to carry. And now changes for Dungeoneers. Pigmen now blow other entities away when they explode. This importantly includes other zombies. Be careful not to blast zombies closer to yourself. But even more importantly, this also affects players. So normal pigmen can now launch players, just like baby pigmen before this update. Iron shovels now have an extra ability. They can be used to bonk zombies, freezing them in their tracks for 4 seconds. Bonked zombies cannot move, even when hit. Each bonk uses 3 durability when used on a normal zombie, while using it on special zombies, such as Forsakens or Revenants, uses 9 durability. There's a short cooldown when a player uses this. This could be useful in dungeons with many mobs. The Polister Shrine change, where the stone buttons were added months ago, has been reverted. Now they are wooden buttons again, and so only one person has to do the pigment tunnel. This makes Polister much easier. Loreful Mines, which had been one of the most difficult places to loot due to its zombie spawners, has had half of its bottom spawners removed. This makes Loreful much easier to loot and might be a viable place to get iron armor. The way down still has the same amount of spawners though, so be careful not to fall. Hunger Drain has been increased slightly for both sprinting and running. Walking used to use pretty much 0 food, so this had to be adjusted. Sprinting is much more taxing now, so players should more carefully consider when they should sprint. The PvE line has been moved further north by 300 blocks to X level 100. This decision was made based on player data collected in November 2020 and before. The goal of this change is to help new players die less often to other players while down south. Notably, this new line now includes Hunt's Grove, which was a popular banditing spot. Along with this change, the tip in chat about the PvE line has been updated. Players can now toggle coordinates in the scoreboard. This will help players who don't want to open F3 or use a client which shows coordinates on the heads-up display. The new /mz stuck command is now the main way to request being stuck. The forum page for being stuck has finally been retired after 5 years of continuous usage. The /mz help command has been cleaned up and is now much easier to read and has more relevant information. Players might have noticed a problem with the /reply command, where one would have to first message a player before using the command. Now players can easily use the /r command to respond to a player that just messaged them. Previously, turning on the radio meant that players wouldn't be able to type in local chat. Turning off the radio would have resulted in players not being able to see incoming radio messages. This has now been fixed, and radio messages can now be seen when on the same channel, regardless if the radio is on or off. Players who walked into the underground path in Klars might have noticed that the location name changed to Wilderness. This has been fixed and it now properly says Klars. Wooden hoes and iron shovels that were crafted together would lose their lore text before this update. Now, even after crafting, they retain their lore. A commonly used tactic by Dungeoneers was to quick disconnect in dungeons, which kept them alive when escaping bad situations. This is no longer possible when dealing with zombies in dungeons, as zombies will now attack NPCs. Speaking of dungeons, zombies in the body offload wave room will now aggro on the player instead of standing idle. After the new year, players were unable to claim their advent calendars. Now this bug has been fixed, though the command will be removed soon, so make sure to grab your items quickly. The Crypt of Agadim at Sanctuary of Peace now closes after 4 seconds instead of 1. Players were getting stuck in the crypt, so this should make looting the chests easier as well. Now for legendary weapon reworks. The two that happened this week are the Phantom Blade and the Gamble. The Phantom Blade, which had its dash distance increased to 3 blocks in the previous update, has received a significant buff. Now the dash distance varies from 10 to 15 blocks, depending on if the player is in the air. This is very similar to using a grapple. Each use takes 15 durability, and the Phantom Blade has a 15-second cooldown. This would be very useful in running away from other players, as well as catching other players. Notice that the action bar is now used to show the cooldown, instead of the chat. This will be rolled out to other legendaries in the future. The Gamble has been completely redesigned. It is now a PvE legendary. The old PvP ability has been removed. When players right-click a chest with the new Gamble, it will have a 50% chance to drop double items. However, there is also a 50% chance to explode the chest, destroying the contents and dealing 3 hearts to the player. Players can use this legendary in dungeon loot rooms with interesting results. Note that the Gamble cannot be used in Axis Mundi. Lastly, a new legendary has been added. This is the Penguin Feat. The Penguin Feat was handed out to a select few who completed the Waddle questline. I won't reveal what it does to keep it special for the players who have received it. It has a both passive and active effect. Those who completed the Waddle's questline also received a special Waddle's glyph of Waddles the Penguin. And that's it for update 3.0.7.14. This update fundamentally changes how looting feels. The jungle area got a pretty nice buff with the addition of Treetops Shelter and the Acne chests now spawning more items. New features on iron shovels give dungeoneers and new players another tool to stop zombies. The new Phantom Blade is decent and will likely see use in PvP. The Gamble is likely to become a mainstay of any dungeoneer, giving out tons of loot in loot rooms if used successfully. With the Christmas event over, MineZ is moving on to more and more updates. It's Seal Clubber, and I wish everyone a great 2021, and I'll see everyone in the next update.